Hello everyone and welcome to Farm Bureau's Voices of Agriculture. This week coming to you from the state of Mississippi. On the show this time, we introduce you to a new cut of farm-raised catfish that is sure to tickle your taste buds.
If you're going to serve, at a fine dining restaurant, this is the nicest cut you can get. And that's what we're trying to push it as. Fine dining restaurants, especially in our area, don't want to put catfish on the menu because they think it's a fish you can get at a catfish fry house or something. So this is perfect for those restaurants.
We visit an ice cream maker that uses as many locally sourced ingredients as he can.
We use pecans from Indianola. We use, of course, blueberries from Peggy's Blueberry Farm. We use peaches from McCullough Peach Farm outside of Batesville, Mississippi. So we try to use as many local ingredients as possible.
And we visit a horse farm where miniature horses are raised and trained.
What goes into training a horse is you begin building a relationship with the horse, number one. I like to start off with them when they're very young and just build a relationship with them, feeding them, grooming them, teaching them ground manners. And then from there, they can show in showmanship and halter obstacle at the age of 2.
In our Meet a Farmer segment, we visit a diversified farm in North Mississippi. And of course, we'll have our Mississippi on the Menu segment with Nancy Freeman. We'll be right back. Stay with us. Ask any Mississippian what food they most associate with the state, and chances are they will say catfish. That's because farm-raised catfish from Mississippi is some of the best in the world. And not only is it delicious and easy to find, it's an excellent source of protein and healthy omega-3 fatty acids. But now, the catfish industry has gone one step further and developed a premium seafood offering that could be called the filet mignon of catfish. Delacata style catfish fillets. Simmons Catfish, located just outside Yazoo City, processes 300,000 to 400,000 pounds of farm-raised catfish every week. It comes in live and goes out the door about 30 minutes later as a ready-to-eat product, making farm-raised catfish one of the freshest seafood products on the market. For years, Americans have served catfish as a 4 to 5 ounce fillet, either fried or baked, and it's delicious either way. But now, the catfish industry is promoting this upscale Delacata cut that will allow high-end seafood restaurants to serve catfish right alongside other premium fish.
Well, the Catfish Institute developed it about 5 years ago, and we started doing it about 2 to 3 years ago. So it's still very new, and we have it in several fine dining restaurants, which is where we're trying to get it. But we're having trouble getting chefs to get on board, putting a big price tag on a piece of catfish. But we have to let them know it's not just a piece of catfish. It's something that you can compare with halibut, snapper, redfish, anything like that.
To get a piece of Delacata catfish, you must start by processing it differently. Only premium catfish are used for the Delacata cut. After the side fillet has been removed from the bone, it's deep skinned, a process that removes the skin and also the layer of fat that's right below the skin. This leaves a lean, healthy cut of fish that is all meat. Then the fillet is trimmed by hand to get that special Delacata cut, leaving a beautiful 4 to 6 ounce premium slice of fish that's thick enough to be prepared in several ways.
If you're going to serve, at a fine dining restaurant, this is the nicest cut you can get. And that's what we're trying to push it as. Fine dining restaurants, especially in our area, don't want to put catfish on the menu because they think it's a fish you can get at a catfish fry house or something. So this is perfect for those restaurants.
So we went to one of the newer fine seafood restaurants here in central Mississippi, Seafood Revolution, to talk with their chef, Peyton Warren.
It actually is the center cut of a big, beautiful fillet of catfish. They deep skin it, so therefore they're not cheating you. They're getting that skinny catfish flavor far from the actual piece. So you could compare it to almost any other, this freshwater piece of fish, you could compare it to a lot of Gulf fish. So it's a real center of a plate, doesn't have to be hidden under cornmeal batter or blackened seasoning.
So what Chef Warren is going to prepare is wood-grilled Delacata catfish. He's going to serve it over garlic wilted spinach with a corn crab velouté sauce and a little corn crab salad. He starts with a good hot grill that's oiled up to keep the fish from sticking. The fish gets a light seasoning of salt and pepper on both sides, and then he puts the fish right in the flame to give it a good smoky flavor, and he cooks it for about 4 to 5 minutes, depending on thickness. He's got a cast iron skillet to brown up some garlic and wilt the spinach. He can then put the skillet right on the grill. While the fish and spinach are cooking, Chef Warren prepares the corn crab velouté. The velouté is a roux-thickened sauce with crab stock and vegetables and aromatic herbs. He adds some corn and ends up with a nice creamy textured corn and crab flavored sauce. So to plate it up, he starts with the velouté and then adds a moundful of garlic spinach. Then he adds the grilled Delacata. Then he adds some lump crab meat, some colorful peppers mixed with a little extra virgin olive oil and some sherry vinegar. He tops it off with just a touch of chili oil for a little kick. And that's the wood-grilled Delacata at Seafood Revolution. If you want to prepare Delacata at home, it's important that you read the label when shopping.
If it has the U.S. farm-raised label, you know it's raised right here in America, and Mississippi's the biggest producer of catfish. So most likely your fish is coming from Mississippi, and people really kind of have that sense of pride when they see that, and customers look for that now. You know, you don't realize it, but we've been talking to so many customers, and they look for that label, and they ask their waiters, they ask the chefs, and makes them feel better about getting their fish.
And if you can't find it in your local store, you can always order it online.
We have an online store where we could overnight fish to anywhere, and we have customers every day that get online from Washington, and this morning I saw one from Illinois and Ohio, so it's mostly places where people can't get catfish, but they really want it.
Expectations are high that Delacata can help catfish farmers move more fish and consumers to find a healthy way to feed their family. It's a win-win situation. We do a lot of stories on this show about farmers and how they produce commodities they raise. But this story is about a business that takes those locally produced products and combines them into something very tasty. Hugh Balthrop is the owner of Sweet Magnolia Ice Cream Company in Clarksdale in the Mississippi Delta. But he was born and raised in Washington, D.C.
And I had an art gallery for about 5 years in Adams Morgan section of Washington, D.C. And that is where I met my wife in Washington, D.C.
They got married and moved to Clarksdale, where she spent her summers growing up.
And so we've been here since 2000. And since then we have 3 adorable children, 13, 10, and 7, and all Delta babies.
He got into the ice cream business because he liked to do what many of us like to do.
I started making ice cream for my children at home in the kitchen, and that turned into making it for friends and family, and that turned into basically giving away the product to local restaurants. And then I went online and purchased as many books as I could get my hands on about ice cream making. I got as much information as I could through online, through the internet, and ended up going to Penn State University ice cream course, and I also studied under a gelato master. And so that is what led me here today.
Balthrop says he likes to use locally sourced ingredients whenever possible. The main ingredient for Sweet Magnolia ice cream comes from the cream harvested from grass-grazed cows on a farm in Oxford run by Billy Ray Brown. It's a small family dairy that has a loyal following.
Once they get to buying from you, and I think, you know, you're selling a product, but you're also, not that you're selling yourself, but, you know, we try to get people here to our farm. We give free tours. We don't charge anything. We want them to come see these cows, how they're milked, how they're treated. And those people, it does make them feel good to know where that milk's coming from.
But that's not the only local ingredients in Sweet Magnolia ice cream.
Right around the corner we have Miss Mary's Pound Cake. We have a Miss Mary's Pound Cake gelato that we do, and so she makes the best pound cake in the world. We have honey, local honey from Powell and Sons around the corner in Vance. That's just right around the corner. We use eggs, pastured eggs from People's Farm in Oxford, Mississippi. We use pecans from Indianola. We use, of course, blueberries from Peggy's Blueberry Farm. We use peaches from McCullough Peach Farm outside of Batesville, Mississippi. So we try to use as many local ingredients as possible.
Technically, Balthrop is making gelato, not ice cream. Gelato has less air pumped into it than traditional ice cream and is creamier and smoother, so it gives a more powerful, intense flavor. He uses an Italian-made ice cream machine to mix batch after small batch.
We put, probably about 8 liters in here at a time. So the process is, we mix by hand. It's not a pre-made mix. We use the sugar, the dextrose for anti-freezing properties of that, and milk cream, sometimes eggs. For our French vanilla, we use eggs. And so we blend it and we put it in top of this batch freezer. And this is a pasteurizer, and it goes to about 85 degrees Celsius. It stays up top for about 8 minutes. And then we put it in the freezing chamber for about 8 minutes. And in about 16 minutes, you have gelato, about 8 liters of gelato.
At that point, the gelato is hand-packed into small containers for sale.
I would have to say our biggest seller is, between salty caramel and Delta Gravel, which is a salty caramel, with Delta buttered pecans that we put in there. We call it Delta Gravel. And whiskey and pecans is a top seller. Delta buttered pecans is a top seller. Cookies and cream is a kid's favorite.
Being a small company, distribution is one of the major issues he faces. Currently, you can find Sweet Magnolia ice cream in Clarksdale, Cleveland, Oxford, Jackson, South Haven, Hernando, and a few other small North Mississippi towns. He's also got it in some stores and restaurants in Memphis, Nashville, the Gulf Coast, and in Alabama. And he's working on a cost-effective means of shipping nationwide. His goals are to be able to hire more young people from the community, continue to support local farmers, and make Sweet Magnolia a household name.
We started out in the kitchen, like I said, and until my wife kicked me out pretty much. And so right now we're in a business development chamber of commerce space of 3,800 square feet. And we try to focus on putting just a great product out, using quality ingredients. And so far the community has been behind it, and they've shown a lot of love and support. So hopefully we're headed your way real soon.
We'll be right back with more of Voices of Agriculture from Mississippi right after these messages. Stay with us. And welcome back to Voices of Agriculture. A century ago, most of the power needed to do the plowing, planting, and cultivating on a farm was supplied by horses and mules. But with the advent of the tractor, horses took on a completely different role on farms. Nowadays, ranchers still use them to drive cattle and other animals, and a lot of farmers use them for pleasure riding. But this story is about a different kind of horse and what these horse owners do with them.
This is Fancy. Her registered name is Darmanzar's Golden Fancy, and I call her Fancy.
Fancy belongs to Beth Booker of Hurricane Acres in Canton. Beth's specialty is raising and training miniature horses like Fancy.
Miniature horses come in all styles. They come in the quarter horse style, they come in Arabian style, we have Appaloosas. When you see this miniature horse in a picture, nothing around it, just the picture, you should go, I wonder how tall that horse is. The first thing you think should not be, oh, look at this miniature horse, because you don't know the difference until you compare that miniature horse to a big horse, or to the size, the height of the fence, or the height of the person that's standing beside the horse.
Miniature horses came about from intentional breeding many years ago. They were highly valued by European royalty in the 1700s.
The theory is that people were breeding the smallest in whatever breed, whether it be draft or a quarter horse or Arabian. They were breeding those smaller horses, maybe even to a small pony, and coming out with the miniature horse.
Now, Beth doesn't use her horses for farming. She trains them to show in competitions across the country.
What goes into training a horse is you begin building a relationship with the horse, number one. I like to start off with them when they're very young and just build a relationship with them, feeding them, grooming them, teaching them ground manners. And then from there, they can show in showmanship and halter obstacle at the age of 2.
And then come the more difficult parts of the competition.
When we trot the serpentines, we want the horse to stay at a pretty much a constant pace through the course. They need to move away from your shoulder, from your hip with their shoulder as you're moving through, and the exhibitor stays on the same side of the cone that the horse is on. In other words, the exhibitor doesn't go on one side and the horse on the other side. The goal is to hit right in the middle, hit for the horse to strike right in the middle of those cones as close as you can and keep that a nice smooth pattern.
Jumping is another class that Fancy competes in, but she's not crazy about it.
She does them. She is beginning to like them. It's not something that I don't think comes very natural to many of them. None of mine anyway. It's something I really have to talk them into. First we start with them low and get them to jump low, and then we gradually move them up.
Another class involves a hula hoop. The goal is for them to place their front or back feet in a hula hoop and then pivot all the way around without touching the hoop. And then there's the side pass class. The goal is for them to side pass smoothly through the boards until you ask them to stop. But one of the prettiest classes is when they're driving a cart.
In your Western or classic driving, you want this horse to simulate what a quarter horse would look like sort of in their pleasure riding classes, where you've got their neck and pole pretty much even with their withers, maybe a little higher. Their face is straight up and down, and their leg action is more of a sweeping leg action like you would see in that quarter horse. The country pleasure, the head is a little higher, a little more leg action. The pleasure horse has their head really high and they have a lot of leg action. Then you've got your park harness horse that's even fancier than that. And then we have a roadster class that any of those horses can go in a roadster class. You come into the ring at a collected trot and you are asked to change gaits to an extended trot. Then they will ask you to walk, and then you turn in reverse to go the other direction, go through the same gaits. Then you come to the center and line up, and then in the country pleasure and Western country pleasure and the pleasure classes, you have to back the horse. The horse has to be able to back. In the roadster class, you do not have to back. And what the judges is wanting to see is a well-trained horse, a well-mannered horse, a horse that can stay consistent at the gait that's been called for.
Some people claim that miniature horses behave badly, but Beth says it's all in the training. Her horses are calm enough that she lets her 4-year-old granddaughter, Jaden, groom and ride them.
I cannot tolerate misbehavior and ill-mannered horses. I personally can't handle them either. So I want them good-mannered. So if I wouldn't allow a big horse to do that, I shouldn't allow my miniature to do that. So as a result, my horses are fairly well-mannered. I'm not going to tell you they're always well-mannered because they all have their moments. They are a horse. They are still a horse. Jaden does like to be around them. She enjoys being around them.
In our Meet a Farmer segment this time, we visit a peanut farmer in North Mississippi.
Started out in 2003 just farming cotton, which was years ago, and the cotton markets kind of fell off, so we the last 2 years hadn't planted any cotton, but hope to go back to that. We're non-irrigated hill farmers, and it's just we're pretty spread out because we don't have a whole lot of open land around here, but we make do.
Billy started growing peanuts in the mid-2000s when birdsong came through looking for farmers to plant them.
The first couple of years was tough. It was a learning curve, I tell you. We hauled as much dirt over there as we did peanuts, but they bared with us, and we've been very, very profitable on the peanuts. That's kind of kept me afloat. The years that it's so dry, they're almost drought resistant. And of course, the market, it jumped way up back in 11, I believe, when it really jumped up, and that helped us a lot. And then 12 was good. They're hanging in there pretty good, so we really like the rotation though. I mean, it seems to be good for the dirt, and just something else we can have just to diversify a little bit.
Billy says the biggest issue facing him as a farmer is the high cost of inputs versus the low prices for commodities.
fertilizer went up and never went back down. Very few seed companies and very expensive on that end. You know, nobody's competing anymore for your business. It doesn't seem like as much. And I know with the new technology, of course, the crops are easy to grow, but if you make one mistake now, it's over with. I mean, you know, it's very tough. The prices of everything. And that's what, you know, you gotta figure out a niche like the peanuts to hang on in the lean times with these other row crops. But you know that, and you know, the weather. I don't irrigate a single acre, and don't know that I ever will. So you know, between the weather and the high prices, it's just you're at the good Lord's mercy, I guess, on that. So, but I'm not gonna complain. We've had some great years the past 5 years, and we've been real blessed. So we've done well.
Kayla is a teacher at the local school. The Tabbs have 4 children: Brady, who's 9, Grant, who is 7, 6-year-old Adelie, and Gibson, who is 22 months. We'll be back with more of Voices of Agriculture right after this timeout. Stay with us. In our Mississippi on the Menu segment this time, Nancy Freeman prepares a tasty appetizer using Mississippi farm-raised catfish.
Mississippi farm-raised catfish is delicious for any meal. I like it baked, I like it broiled, I even like it southern fried. But you know, you have to be careful these days when you're selecting catfish. There's a lot of inferior catfish from other countries that have been brought into our local markets. So watch out for these invaders. Read the label and make sure you're getting Mississippi farm-raised catfish. Only U.S. farm-raised catfish are grown to high-quality standards and safe practices. So again, read the label and be careful of what you've got. You know, Mississippi farm-raised catfish brought in a lot this year to Mississippi. $197 million of value to our state and our economy. So those 45,000 acres of catfish ponds are really doing a great job producing a high-quality product that we can enjoy every day in our meals. This is a great one for catfish stuffed mushrooms. And what I've done is I've taken some beautiful Mississippi farm-raised catfish and I have broiled it, flaked it off, and I have it here in my pan that's all ready to go. To this, I'm going to add some cream cheese mixture. It's got little peppers in it. It's got Old Bay seasoning, a little bit of mayonnaise, and we're just going to take this and mix this around, combine it easily together. And this is going to be such a neat treat. Think about your next family gathering or party. What a neat thing to have. Now that we've got this done, we've taken some portobello mushrooms, and all I did was I took out the stems and I took out the gills, and I'm going to take a little scooper, and I'm going to scoop up some of my catfish stuffing, and this is going to go easily into this. This is on a greased pan. It's going to go in the oven at 425 degrees for about 15 minutes. Hot, warm, delicious, and ready. And then all we do on top of that is a little bit of panko breadcrumbs to slide it in for a crunchy topping. Let's take a look at our finished product, which is going to be delicious. Can you just imagine picking up one of these juicy, sweet things, having a bite of Mississippi farm-raised catfish? It's what you need to be looking for. Read those labels. Check us out at growingmississippi.org and follow us on Facebook at Farm Families Mississippi.
We invite you to learn more about Mississippi agriculture and its importance to your daily life. Visit growingmississippi.org. That's all the time we have for this edition of Voices of Agriculture. We hope you've enjoyed the show and will be with us again next time. For all of us here at the Mississippi Farm Bureau, thanks for watching.